TopMedTalk.
Hello and welcome to TopMedTalk. We are at Euro Anesthesia 2022 in a beautiful Milano, Italy, coming to you live from the trade exhibition here for the European Society of Anesthesia and Intensive Care. I'm your host, Desiree Chappell, and I'm joined by my partner in crime for this meeting, Saul Aronson. How are you, Saul?
I'm great, Desiree. Good to be here. We're sharing stories about how we all got here with our flight trials and tribulations, and it really is good to have our feet on the ground in Milan, Italy.
It is, absolutely. Man, there is a buzz in this exhibit hall, isn't there, Saul?
It's amazing. I mean, people are ready to get back on the horse and ride. So hopefully COVID is in our rearview mirror, or at least that which we once knew of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so excited this year for ESA to be in the exhibit hall, partnering with GE this year.
It is, and I must say we're sitting in a sea of confetti because there was a launch of a number of cool, innovative products that we're going to have a chance to do a little bit more of a deep dive on. But it's very exciting. A lot of energy, a lot of buzz.
A lot of energy. I love it. I know the confetti is awesome. I thought there was like a glitter bomb going on here a little earlier. But Monty and Frederick Clement were able to go and had a little time to do the product launch, which that is now on TopMedTalk. It's already up. So if you missed it, please do check it out. So we're here for the new global product launch of Portrait Mobile. We've had an opportunity to sit down with some leadership from GE, and right now, this evening, before we head out to dinner, we are able to sit down with Tom Westrick and Brandon Henak from GE. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
You bet. First off, I love the buzz here as well. The power of human interaction is not undersold, or not oversold, I should say. This is nice to see people face to face and shake hands and just get back together again in the real way. So I've been at GE for 19 years. I'm the president and CEO of our Life Care Solutions business, which includes patient monitoring, anesthesia machines, ventilators, our maternal infant care business, which is incubators and warmers, and our diagnostic cardiology business, which is EKG carts. Extremely excited to be here. I've been in this role for 2 years, leading this business. Exciting set of businesses in a very, very exciting space in the healthcare industry and acute care. We have a lot of great things to talk about.
Yeah, great. And Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've been with GE Healthcare for 16 years. Had a chance to work in a number of different areas, from technical product management and some of our digital solutions to marketing for our anesthesia and respiratory care business, and most recently as the marketing director for monitoring solutions. So really excited. Been to a few ESAICs. It's good to be back in real life, right? In 3D. So happy to be here and excited to talk to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just kind of dive right into it. We've been talking a lot about patient safety, patient care, the overall experience that patients have and clinicians have as well. What is GE doing right now to improve patient safety and that experience of healthcare?
Yeah, I think the first thing we do, Desiree, is we listen a lot to our customers and their patients. I mean, the way care is provided today globally is tough. I mean, there's a shortage of people. There's a shortage of all aspects of the healthcare system, whether it's equipment, to nurses, to doctors, to the amount of data that people have to use is usually too much and not useful. And it leads to difficulty in providing care and poor patient experience, poor clinician experience, and just ultimately usually a negative patient, or could be a negative patient outcome, as well as a tough financial situation as well. So anything that we can do that serves to improve patient experience, improve clinician experience, and ultimately the provider's system is we are front and center to. So most of our solutions have, in addition to the technical, clinical applicability that you know us for, in terms of technical parameters and things on our monitors, or just the clarity of our EKG machine as well, is what can we do to improve workflow? What can we do to make everything around the device easier to use, easier to interpret? How is the data coming off the device better for the clinician to make more efficient workflow after the looking at the monitor, et cetera. So I would say we are extending significantly beyond the device itself into what the workflow looks like around it in the acute care space, and it's directly consistent with what our customers tell us. What they expect and they deserve, and they know us for our technical acclimate around our device itself, and they're looking for more. They're looking for more from anyone, and obviously us, to help them in their day-to-day beyond the technical aspects, and that's where most of our product innovation is today.
Tom, one of the things that struck me about the launch and the exhibit, if you will, that I've now had a chance to appreciate in understanding these new products and tools is not, if I may, it's not just the workflow to utilize the tool, but it's to enhance the utilization of what one does because they use the tool.
Yeah.
And so workflow in the existential sense of the word as well is enhanced.
Yeah. So it's a great point. I kind of look at it as like phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1 of the data that tells you how the device operated. Did you use it efficiently? Did you use too much anesthesia, not enough, et cetera? How is the efficiency around the actual use of our machines? That's good, but to get to what I think you're getting at is like how actually does the workflow after you've used the information from the device change, and what can we do to take that to provide information that clinicians can then use to change their next steps in a more meaningful way, more precise way, ultimately leading to more efficient way.
Exactly.
So we're solving things that are well beyond what we have before, and it's around the inefficiency of the system that's been amplified because of COVID, and COVID, which brought the lack of resources and the churn in the healthcare system. The day-to-day protocols of what it takes to provide care is challenged, and what can we do that provides that information that's more precise, more timely, that can be used in a way that actually changes what those who use it do in a more efficient way. So it's, again, I think of it as the phase 1, the phase 2. The phase 1 is around just the device itself, but the phase 2 is where you get at some of the unmet clinical needs.
Yeah. And Brandon, we were talking about this off air, but you're telling me about the Life Care Solutions. There's a suite of technology and solutions and all those different things. How are you really addressing innovation and going forward, and utilizing all those different technologies?
Yeah, absolutely. We anchor it in first the voice of customer, like what we hear from clinicians, right? Like Tom was talking about, we have a broad set of solutions in life care solutions that allow us to work with a lot of different clinicians at different points in the care pathway, right? So we have everything from diagnostics and diagnostic cardiology to therapy devices in anesthesia and respiratory care, and our monitoring solutions as well. So we can understand what are clinicians looking for from a patient standpoint, what challenges are they trying to address. And the biggest ones we hear, right? Staff shortages, the need for flexibility, both driven by COVID-19, but for resilience in a hospital system, to be able to flex to what's needed and individualized patient care. So once we anchor that in the customer challenges, then we can start to address it in unique ways, right? So things like what you see with Portrait Mobile in the booth and the other products that we launched today, having flexible patient monitoring solutions that at the bedside allow a clinician to use the parameters that they need at any given time and adjust care for that patient. Same thing with the therapy devices that they're using at the same time to understand how is that anesthetic developing, right? Is my patient deteriorating? What's the risk of an awareness event? These types of things. So it's a combination of cutting edge tools and technologies that are part of the solution itself, and the digital tools that help drive change, like Tom was talking about, right? They allow you to see exactly what's going on and has gone on with an aggregate set of patients, and then address the changes in care that need to take place in an institution to help improve care, right? So clinicians can get together and say, look, this is what's happened with our set of patients. This is what we need to do to improve care and drive outcomes. And if we can give you that high fidelity data that you need to drive those outcomes, and the tools and capabilities on the devices that you're using to provide care, those two things can come together in really innovative ways. And I think we saw that in some of the launches today.
Help me with the journey, if you will. Obviously, we all got hit in the gut with COVID, and it accentuated our need. It exaggerated that need that had been, I would argue, insidious even before COVID, to stretch and get more juice out of the squeeze. So walk us through the journey, if you will, of the genesis of the idea for these new tools and the new brand, if you will, the approach to delivering, healthcare devices, tools, monitoring to help us be more efficient and provide safer care more efficiently?
I can start here, Brandon. You can jump in. I think it's it's not. You're right. It hasn't just come up since the pandemic. It's been going for years, and I think it's as we've watched technology in our entire lives outside the healthcare space. It's about better use of information, data in our case, virtualization of care. You need to be where you were 20 years ago when you were working in the industry. The answer is no. So you look at the technology that we have available to us today, and then you look at how that has been fit into the healthcare system over the last 25 years, and I think most would argue that the healthcare system was generally behind. Mostly a more paper-based.
Hold on one second.
Sounds like water.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
Should we keep going?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
They'll be able to filter that out. I just want to make sure that it wasn't my
Okay.
device.
So the healthcare system, net compared to others, generally more manual, paper-based, inefficient. It's a difficult system by any comparison. So put that as just sort of a cloud bank that's been around us for quite a while, and I've been in the industry for almost 30 years. Then comes COVID that says, the time to get on board in a much more efficient way is now absolutely yesterday, given the desire and the needs from our customers. So I think it probably started a decade or so ago with the electronic medical record of how to digitize healthcare. And now through the last 10 years, and I think the next 10 years beyond this, it's all about the reacting to the current struggle with the lack of labor and the proliferation of data that's trying to be used to provide care at the bedside as well as virtually, and taking that and just extending it. And the short term is there clearly, given the needs of the system are higher than the capacity to provide it. But most would tell you that this is just an amplification of what should have been happening in the last 20 years. And a lot of it is just using the technology we have today. And a good example is the product that we launched here today, the Portrait Mobile, which is our ward monitoring product, which we talk about. And I can just go there now if you like. You think about when you're in just a typical hospital, you're heavily monitored when you're in the ER, if you need to be in the OR, and obviously the ICU. And most telemetry patients as well. But then you go to the general ward, and then that's the typical. A spot monitor comes in every 4 to 6 hours and takes your vitals, and that's between those periods of time when you have a spot monitor, you're on your own. So unless you've got a physical deterioration that someone notices, it could go on for a long time. And you think about what we have in our own personal world today with Apple Watches and other things you can monitor continuously outside the hospital. Why would you not have monitoring inside the hospital where you could? And is the data would show you that the chances of a serious adverse event or even death outside of the OR or the ICU in the general ward is like 1,000 times higher. So you've got this obvious need of, okay, we clearly see there's adverse events that happen in the general ward, and the legacy practice of spot monitoring has not, we could and should be better than that, and we have the technology to do that. So our Portrait Mobile product is exactly that, is to take and not monitor everything you would if you're in the OR or the ICU, but what are the critical attributes, respiratory rate, SpO2 as an example to start, and look that generates the early warning indicators that something's up and something's wrong, and it to obviously prevent a more significant adverse event and or prevent a readmission back into the ICU. So we're extremely excited about this. I mean, it provides an enterprise-wide monitoring platform. You walk into a hospital, you walk out, you're continuously monitored in a cost-effective, efficient manner that identifies the most significant leading indicators when you're in the ward that could give rise to an issue that can be prevented. So that's really the concept of Portrait Mobile.
Yeah,
and I think that that's a great example of a loud need that we were hearing from clinicians around patient deterioration, right? They said, look, we need a solution for patient deterioration and fast, right? across the portfolio, what we've heard is, both from clinicians but also from the leaders of institutions is, I need a way to provide the best outcomes for patients, right? But I also have efficiency needs, right, to drive efficiency in my healthcare system. So how can you help me prepare for the future, right? And when COVID-19 hit, it only made it even, exponentially more of a need, right? How do you help future-proof my set of solutions so that I can individualize care for any given patient, right? So across our set of solutions, whether it's in diagnostics or in monitoring or anesthesia, we're trying to say, how can we do that with flexible systems, right? Systems that allow digital flexibility, right? That give you more data and give you the flexibility to update care and individualize it for patients, or even the actual parameters and things that you actually use to monitor patients in real life. How do you make sure I can flex that when I need to? Whether it's COVID-19 or a mass trauma event or something new that comes around the corner, we're hearing from institutions, I need my set of medical solutions that are at the point of care with the patient to be able to change as those needs change. So we've invested heavily in solutions that can do that and then help them drive care change when there's new clinical practices, right? Yeah. There's an Institute for Healthcare Improvement study that says it takes like 17 years to drive clinical change, right? I think we saw an exponential change in that.
17 minutes now.
Necessity drives...
I think another point, Brandon, to bring up on the data.
That's what I was just going to ask about, because
Go ahead, Desiree.
We hear this a lot, right? We hear that, we're going to have all this data and do wonderful things with this data, and we live in a bit of a data vacuum right now.
We do.
We have a billion data points, billions and billions of data points.
How do you convert data to information?
Yeah.
To insights, to changes, right? And it's a great question, and it's extremely interesting conversations with our customers, and you can quickly get into the euphoria of artificial intelligence, machine learning. Look at all the things that we're going to be able to predict. And look, it's exciting and changing probably health outcomes for my kids' generations and what we're going to do with this. But most conversations start there, and then they go right back. Can you just provide me some information I need right now with this specific patient, where that's timely, that I can change care right now?
Yeah.
And we call it business intelligence. I mean, before we get to artificial intelligence, let's just get to business intelligence, where you've got information that's available. It's as simple as that. I mean, you've summarized down what you need to know, and it's current. And a lot of the data that's available now is not current. I mean, it's in the record, okay, and it's information that's useful. But if you're doing rounds and you want to know what's happening now, you have to go back. You have to go back and keep checking the information, the data. So what can we provide that's coming off of our devices that's timely, real time, that explains exactly what's happening? How do I get that to the right person as they're doing their job, and they can look at it seamlessly, and not, when I say look at it, look at what they need to see. Not just a pile of information that they have to sift through because they don't have time, and they don't, it just isn't working. So some of our solutions, we have a product called Mural that it's a powerful product that simply just puts the right information in front of a labor and delivery nurse and clinicians so they can make a decision based on what they see is not happening. And as simple as that sounds, it's a very powerful tool because it saves time. It saves workflow. It saves somebody going back and trying to figure out what happened so they can then act.
Yeah, I love Portrait Mural. To me, it really encompasses what you guys
like
are
names.
promoting. Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's accurate.
The art and science.
That's right.
Nice.
Delivering patient care.
Done. Nicely done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, the only thing I wanted to add to what Tom was saying too about real-time data and getting it in a higher fidelity, right? We think about it like clinical fidelity data, right? So this isn't a historical record like Tom was talking about, but it's 350 data points every patient breath coming from the anesthesia machine, right? Another 400 from the patient monitor. Now, you could easily get overwhelmed by that kind of data, which is also why we've invested heavily in a platform for managing and processing that data to give you insights, all based on discussions with clinicians, right? To understand what are the key areas you need insights, and then let's help process that data together, right? Because a lot of the clinicians we talk to, they say, hey, I got all kinds of data, but I can't get access to it, right? To Tom's point, like I'm bathing in data, but I wait in line for 6 months to try to get a report on it, right? Yeah. So we're trying to give you that clinical data to make clinical decisions on the fly, and so we invest in how you in in devices that produce data and in formats that are needed, right? Then we invest in the networking and the critical, mission critical networks like what we have in Portrait Mobile on our Edison platform. And then in the actual processing of that data into insights, like our Care Station Insights platform over here that helps look at things like lung protective ventilation or agent usage for environmental impacts. And neuromonitoring with adequacy of anesthesia, right?
Yeah.
So
the topic of data we could spend weeks on, and it's complex and fascinating and important, and where we are and where we want to go and where it could go. Awesome, actually awesome, like intimidating awesome.
Yeah, change our lives.
Yeah,
but to bring it home, if I may, the point about the data and the fidelity, as you spoke to, through the lens of patient specificity and it being safe and enhancing quality, but also in the context of we now are much, much more sensitized to it also having to enhance value. And I think it's really important that those are always tethered as we deal with, the challenge of healthcare today and going forward. And I'm going to ask you to sort of speak to that in that swim lane.
Sure. I mean, I'll take that. I mean, the solutions that we speak to and discuss with our customers are almost always start with what's the patient experience change. So patient experience doesn't improve. Does it improve our ability to provide better outcomes to our patients? Then it's clinician experience. So back to your point, Sal, the data. So what if it's data? What does that data do? Does it provide a better patient outcome? Does it provide a better clinician experience? And then eventually in that line down there is what's the financial ROI on that spend or that time that someone's using with that data? And it's kind of that simple. I mean, in most of our discussions with our bigger customers, they look at it like that. And they don't have infinite time to trial and error things. So it has to be pretty compelling, because when you get into changing clinician care or you're getting into changing workflows, you need to be sure that what you're doing is because it is pervasive, is it going to result in those 3 or 4 things that come out of it. So yeah, the trial and error data for data, it doesn't work. I mean, you got to have you need to really demonstrate that there's a viable clinical, patient, clinician, and financial benefit that comes as a result of it.
At a healthcare economics level, we hear value-based care, right, in a lot of different markets.
We talk about it all the time in the space of anesthesia and perioperative medicine. Sure.
Right, and what we hear, and you can certainly add to this, right, is, I need good outcomes that are really indicative of patient experience and clinician experience that I can measure, right? Then I need the ability to measure those outcomes, right? And a lot of times clinicians struggle with that, to say, how do I get that data? And the C-suite in the hospital, right? We want to be able to provide care, and then we need new business models to partner between industry and the healthcare institutions to be able to drive care and have new ways of interacting around that value that's being created, right? So we've got to measure it, we've got to drive it, right, with the tools and solutions that we've got. And then we have to really interact with each other and collaborate. And we're looking at many ways to do that. But it starts with, how do we make sure that we're measuring the right things and that you have the ability to get that visibility to how we're changing that, right? So whether it's reducing negative hemodynamic events during anesthesia, or reducing the number of patient deterioration events in the general ward, there's a lot of areas that we're looking, but that has to ladder up to those higher level value-based care metrics, and then we have to together work to figure out how we can drive those.
Oh, amen.
Case in point, just to sort of bring home an example that we just shared with each other, the spot check, queue 3, 4, 6 hours on the ward, however you allocate based on your resources. We all know that it's better to know those predictors sooner with greater sensitivity, but we're limited by our resources of personnel, which is a diminutive reality today, and it costs a lot to fill those holes in those gaps. And so the value proposition becomes just consistent with the discussion of quality, and they're one and the same, and they're parallel.
Yeah.
How do you balance your resources to provide quality of care? And you can't hire your way into quality of care anymore. I mean, you probably never could, but you certainly can now. You can't just add more people because they're not available. So what's the tool? What's the solution that allows you to provide increasing level of care with a fixed number of labor resources?
Yeah, absolutely. Gentlemen, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us on TopMedTalk to have a really interesting conversation. Now, I know that there is some big news for GE and your all's customers, and there's been a lot of talk about a spinoff. So what is happening here?
So that it's well publicized, so that we've been with GE. GE Healthcare has been with GE for over 120 years, so we've been around for a while in the healthcare industry. And in November of 2021, our CEO, Larry Culp, CEO of GE, announced an intention to create 3 separate businesses within General Electric. So it's the power businesses, the aviation businesses, and then the current business that I'm in, the GE Healthcare business. So we've been a separate segment for GE, separate reportable segment for GE for a long time. The reason to do this is, very well said and summarized, is the value we would create as 3 separates we think is greater than as one. You have more flexibility, more specific investments, innovation, flexibility, speed that we can serve our customers that are very much pointed directly in the healthcare space versus being part of a bigger organization. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we will be a more nimble organization as a result of this. We're clearly different than the other 2 businesses that are being spun out as separate companies as well. And we're excited about it. I mean, our customers look at us as GE, but they first looked at us as GE Healthcare, and being focused specifically on this space, everyone's excited about it. And the timing is, is stated as early 2023. Lots of effort going in by a few people to get ready to do that. But I can say 99% of my time is focused on running my set of businesses and serving customers. And there's a few people that are working on how to create a separate standalone company that will go forward in early next year. So very excited.
Looking forward to it. Last big question here. What do you think is the biggest mark that GE is going to have on the healthcare system in the next, in the future, next 5 to 10 years?
Wow. That's a good one. That's a good last one.
That's a good last one. Let's in with a bang.
Yeah, I won't go on for hours, but I could, but I won't. I would love us to be the one that consolidates a lot of the issues that our customers face with under our roof. When I think of the workflow issues and the ability to get the data, we're talking about the whole time here, the ability to get data, ability to use the data to provide the insights, that's not being solved by any one company today. It's the disparate number of lots of different companies are trying to get in this space because of lots of reasons. I mean, there's a big need. There's tons of value that we can provide. I think we, with our incredibly loyal brand, 100 years in the business, can and should be the company that brings it together. That in addition to being that technical device provider and everything that goes with that clinically, we should be the ones that help pull together the rest of the workflow issues in and around the acute care space primarily. And that's how I look at LCS, is we should be the one that pulls the solutions together that helps the entire space, not just where we have historically been. And I think our customers are looking for somebody to do that. I mean, versus working with hundreds, can you find one provider that can pull this together for you? Of course, there's going to be multiple vendors. I'm not suggesting there's one, but there's need. I think there's a need for someone to kind of grab the reins here and help drive workflow improvement, and we can be that one.
Yeah, I love it,
Brandon.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, I think it's a great summary of it. But if there's a huge transformation that's going on right now in healthcare, right, and it's been accelerated by COVID-19 and a lot of the dynamics that are going on. And to Tom's point, I feel like there's a lot of the clinicians and care teams that are overwhelmed by the amount of data and information, the different sources that they've got. If we can leave a mark on helping with that transition, simplifying workflows, giving clinical insights that help them improve care, in a unique way. I think that we've accomplished something and have really helped, drive that change, drive that transformation.
Yeah, amazing. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I know it's the end of the day. We've all been traveling a little weary from the U.S. Please enjoy the rest of Euro Anesthesia 2022. It's exciting to be here on the booth. Thank you guys so much for partnering
appreciate
with
your
us.
questions. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can find us at TopMedTalk.com on your favorite social media platform, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. We are there. We're going to have other fabulous conversations from the ESAIC, European Society of Anesthesiology and Intensive Care at Euro Anesthesia 2020. Don't miss it. Cheers.
Ciao.
TopMedTalk.
Desiree Chappell with TopMedTalk. It has been an exciting year, and there is so much more to come. Now, I'm joined here with Monty Mythen. Monty, what is coming up?
Well, next, TopMedTalk are going to be coming to you live from the European Society of Anaesthesiology from Milan in Italy. You'll find us on the GE booth in the trade exhibition. We'll be there intermittently. We'll probably pop up in a few other places. So I'm there with Desiree, and Sol Aronson's coming in, and Henry Howe. And after that, Desiree, where do we go?
It is time for the 25th anniversary World Congress of Perioperative Medicine in London, right? Live.
From the UCL campus to celebrate our 25th anniversary. So that's really exciting. And then I think we've got the next one in August with your organization in America.
It is. It's in Chicago. It's the American Association of Nurse Anesthetists. Monty and I are going to pop up there, have some great conversations, and then it's on to
Dingle. So that takes us into the autumn and winter season. More about that to follow.
And then, of course, we're going to be rounding out the year with the American Society of Anesthesiologists in New Orleans for their annual Congress. So super excited about all the events for the year. Don't miss us. Be sure to check us out on TopMedTalk.com and on your favorite podcatcher. We are there with late-breaking anesthesia and perioperative news. Right, Monty?
Absolutely. See you soon.
Cheers.